Family business makes no sense. So let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Family Business Challenge video and podcast series. I'm Jon Kenfield, the Family Business Solutionist based in Melbourne, Australia. I've worked with family business people for decades, and most of that work has been spent helping them to resolve various family and business challenges, a whole bunch of succession issues, including stalled or non-existent succession processes, and fundamentally my focus has been on relationship conflicts that block up everything, damage lots and lots of people and lots of relationships, and prevent everything from moving forward. Over the hundreds of families that I've worked with, I've lost count of how many times I've been asked, why doesn't anyone talk about why family businesses fail? We talk a lot about pride and passion and successes and so on, but we don't talk about why they fail, and we especially don't talk about the victims of family business failure and how damaging that is to their relationships, to their sense of self-esteem, to their careers, to their finances, and really to the whole family once the ripple effect takes place. So we know that the vast majority of businesses, privately owned businesses in families across the world, are family businesses. They're family owned, family managed, family run, and some of those get to be multi-generational. A lot of them hope to be multi-generational, some of them actually achieve it. We know that a fortunate few, and they're often the ones who end up on the stage talking to others, seem to be effortlessly successful. They make good money. The family members enjoy working together, and they even enjoy, to a greater or lesser extent, socializing as a family group. So they've managed to maintain their social cohesion and combined it with business effectiveness. But realistically, for every one that is massively successful, there are at least 9, maybe 99, that have struggled and or failed. So the real question we need to ask is, how do we make a family business successful? How do we manage the family dynamics that by definition underlie every business that calls itself a family business? And in particular, how do we deal with the conflicts that arise, which are not necessarily a bad thing, but from time to time the conflicts that arise, so that if they're properly managed, we end up with a strong business that leverages diversity and commitment and loyalty and all of those good things, and we have a happy family. That's the Holy Grail, and that's what we're going to be talking about. My background. What entitles me to even talk about this? As I said before, I've been working for over 3 decades with family business people in a wide variety of businesses, from very small to really very, very large. And as somebody who originally trained to be a lawyer, spent 40 years as a chartered accountant and family business advisor, general business advisor, and realistically chicken soup psychologist, I am convinced that our starting point, if we want to do the root cause of where do things go wrong, is accepting the basic proposition that family business as a concept actually makes no sense. And in this introduction to this series of videos, which will be focusing on 50 common causes of family business conflict, how to deal with them, each cause being a separate video, I am going to explain why it is that I believe that in a rational sense family business actually makes no sense, but that if you're in one, if you've been game or daft enough, committed enough or desperate enough to bring your family into a business or to be a family member who has agreed or been dragged into a family business, how do you deal with the challenges that must arise as a consequence of being in a family business rather than in a non-family business? So this first video will spend some time talking about why it is I believe family business as a concept makes no sense. And I'll start with a little quote that I must have been I drafted, which goes, "We don't bury our hatchets, we hide them and then pretend to forget where we left them. And maybe that's why family gatherings make everybody feel nervous." Sound familiar? I must admit, in past years, I've run families through conflicts and we buried hatchets in gardens and in other places as a way of symbolising time to move on. So that comes from there. What is the family business context? Well, a family business is fundamentally any privately owned business where two or more family members are substantially involved in ownership and management of the business in some form or another. So what we're doing is introducing a relationship dynamic, a blood relationship dynamic, or maybe a relationship by marriage, into a commercial context. That inevitably muddies the waters because we have three complex systems now interacting. Now, a system is defined both in mechanics, engineering, and also in the fields of human relations as a closed group where individual components interact with each other, and anything that happens to one component will have a knock-on effect to those other components in the system. And we have three complex systems. We have individuals and all the things that go on for individuals emotionally, intellectually, relationship-wise, etc. We have family systems where we have people who are interconnected by blood or by law to form a family group, which is the basis of the most fundamentals of clans, tribes, and so forth. The most fundamental relationship on the planet for human beings. And we then have the family business, which is a business system, which is subject to commercial pressures. Now, if we look quite simply at the key factors that make a family successful, and we compare them with the key factors that make a business successful, we will find that almost every key success factor for a family is in direct conflict with a key success factor for a business. The one is all about nurture, support, love, acceptance, protection of the weak, that sort of thing. And the other is about profitability, sustainability, merit for reward, competitiveness, all of those things. Now, you line them up and you can see that each one is in conflict. So if you drag people or bring people into a business from your family, you are instantly running the risk of the family business curse, which is where the family and family needs and interests are sacrificed on the altar of commercial expedience. And we often see that over time, particularly as parents get older, they begin, as they start to contemplate meeting the big guy up top, they start to contemplate what they did not get right with their family, particularly with strong entrepreneurs who may be looking around at their kids and saying, how come they are not as fearless and as bold and as successful as I have been? And the main reason is because they've been fearless, bold and successful and suppressed their kids' own development and prevented them from becoming perhaps the people they could have become. So entrepreneurialism carries a risk if it is not managed in itself, in my view, from observations. So what do we need to be thinking about? Well, family business, we know family businesses that are effortlessly successful. How have they been successful? It is not luck. They may have had lucky breaks along the way. We all love to get lucky. Some people say I'd rather be lucky than be good. But over a period of time, that's not enough. Businesses can rise and fall, be dissolved, recreated and so forth. They can go on forever. Families are families for life. Relationships last for life. And if you are going to have a successful and a strong business and a successful and happy family over the long term, you won't get there by hoping for the best. There are things that you have to do and things you have to not do, avoid doing, to achieve success in both entities over the long term. And we can simply define that, although the phrase is not often referred to in the family business space, as best practice. If we look into any form of business methodologies or theory, the concept of best practice, which is simply using developed knowledge that is proven to produce good outcomes on a repeatable basis, it's applying those principles into a business environment to create efficiencies and create certainties and not have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Now, I believe there is such a thing as a family business best practice because having worked personally with hundreds of family businesses, having read from loads of academics, attended conferences, spoken to lots of other advisors, there is a very broad sense of agreement about the things that come unstuck in a family business and the things family businesses and business people can do to avoid coming unstuck. Now, if we put those into some sort of a mud map, these are the things you need to do with the family, these are the things you need to do the business, keep them separate so you don't muddy your thinking, and eventually you'll get to the point where they do comfortably support each other, you're achieving best practice. And we give awards for that, but we don't necessarily call it best practice for reasons I've never quite understood. So we're accepting, and for the purposes of the rest of the series, we are accepting, or we're postulating at least, family business makes sense because business success factors fight with family success factors. And if you accept that it's hard enough to have a good family and make it happy and make for things to work out well, and it's hard enough to have a business in a competitive environment and keep that sustainably successful, keep the lights on, keep paying everybody's salaries, support all of your employees' families and so forth. If we put them both together, Chuck Darwin's laws of survival say that your level of complexity has just now gone through the roof. So all the things you need to do to have a happy family during the growing up years and afterwards, combined with all the things you need to do to have a strong and successful and profitable business over the long term, create a level of complexity many, many times higher than if you just had a family and just had a business. You're going to bring them together, you have diversity, and you need to play to strengths, and you need to minimize weaknesses. You need to manage risk. And so the rest of this series is going to be talking about the root causes of the conflicts that create problems that basically can break families and business to pieces. I hope you'll join me for the rest of the series, and if this is useful to you or to anybody you know, please pass the details on to others so they can at least watch and contribute thoughts and comments and so on, and we can all learn together. Thank you for your interest.